Okay, it is 5:02. We're gonna call the meeting to order. First thing we're gonna do is public comment, right? Okay, do we have any public comment?
There's one person in the, an attendee online, and if she can raise her hand if she'd like to comment.
Nothing? Okay.
Nothing.
All right, we're gonna move forward to review and adopt the minutes from our last meeting. Has everybody had a chance to go over that?
They're printed on your table because they weren't attached.
Perfect, okay. So we should take a second just to make sure we all feel good about it really quick.
Yeah.
That all looks correct to me. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second that. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up my information that you sent over so that I can see what our agenda is today. Oh, all in favor, say aye. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So design review from planning department, and that's the thing you sent over, right?
So this is the food cart application, and I also sent over the design review form.
Yes.
Did you all have a chance to look at that and fill out the design review form?
I did not have a chance to fill it out. I didn't print it out, but I did go through all of this stuff today, or not today, last week when you sent it over. How about everybody else?
Yeah, same, but I didn't fill it out.
Okay.
I missed that part, sorry.
It's okay. As long as you're prepared to make a recommendation for the planning commission because they're meeting.
Okay. So I guess, did anybody have any comments on it, objections to it?
Yeah, I sent a comment to the planning commission, so I'll tell you what I said.
Okay.
Is this for comment, the comments?
Pardon?
Is this for the comments?
Yeah,
Across the street, yeah.
okay. All right, so, but first I'm gonna say, I thought about recusing myself from this because I am a hospitality business. But then I thought that it's not like one of my relatives is bidding for a job or something like that. I come oriented as an owner of a business in downtown Estacada, everything that goes on in downtown Estacada, I'd have to recuse myself from everything. And so I won't unless you guys tell me you think I should. So, and also I expect that I'm not going to have the same opinion about this as you guys do. So no hard feelings about that. But I own a business that is a hospitality industry. And since we've been here, which is just short of 19 years open, we have seen more than 35 restaurant related businesses go out of business. We stopped counting at that point. And so I expect it's probably more like around 40 at this point. And there's a couple of things I think that force those businesses out of being in business. One is that there's, I think a lot of people go and eat someplace else, or they, you know, there's not enough customers or whatever it is. Thankfully, our income is diversified. And so we don't have exactly the same challenges that others do, but these are bricks and mortar businesses. What we're talking about is adding a lot of businesses that are temporary in nature. And so if they don't like it here, they can pack up and leave because they're on wheels. And so I don't see that they make the same commitment or investment in the community that the brick and mortar businesses do. And so I'm actually objecting to supporting this plan. And I would just ask that you think about, the food carts that are here. There are quite a few of them. I don't see them participating in this town the way that some of the other businesses and some of the businesses that have actually gone out of business have served on committees, made donations to charitable things, and, basically have been part of the community. I don't see the food carts participating in that same manner. So I'm against it.
The role of the committee in this particular action is to review the design criteria as outlined in the development ordinance against the application.
In that capacity, upon looking on it, it seemed that it met everything that I read.
I had two specific
Okay.
questions. One is that they didn't list a color. We do have a specific color palette for downtown.
Okay.
So from staff, from me, I would say I would want to see them listing their colors to make sure that it fits within our color palette.
Okay.
And then the other was concern about the siding that was used, because we do specifically say that the exterior cladding shall be consistent with historic building designs, materials consistent of brick veneer, stone, split face concrete, clapboard siding, board and batten siding, or similar material. And I did not see on their application what the siding would be. And so that would be my other concern as staff.
Okay. So essentially, when we're recommending this out, we're just saying with these two questions answered, we feel like it fits our design specifications.
Correct.
Okay.
So the building can fit the design requirements,
Yes.
but the food carts don't. Is that, how do you separate that?
Yeah, because the food carts are a separate entity from the building, where we are saying this is the building fits the design standards.
That makes sense.
Because the food carts, I don't know if mine's on, is it on?
It's on, you just
Um,
need to be a little closer.
The food carts that we have now, is that a design protocol?
No, because they're not a permanent structure.
Yeah. That makes sense. So then it sounds like from our perspective, as long as those two questions are answered, it approves.
Unless you had anything else that fit within the design standards that you had concerns about.
I personally didn't. When I read it, I saw, I looked at the windows and how you had to be able to see in it, and you had to have places for people to stand and things like that. And it seemed, in my opinion, to fit those specifications. Same for you?
Yeah. And I'm assuming if this continues to go forward, then if they're not abiding by a certain standard, then they would be told to, like the color, they're not going to paint it a color without getting approved. Right.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
So, I
can, we would make the recommendation that it has to fit within the design standards
Sure.
for the colors for downtown, and present that to the planning commission, and then the planning commission can put that in their conditions of approval.
Mhm.
So they have
mean,
to
'cause-
approve that.
Okay, because they're not going to just build a building and, paint it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, but
Do you have anything, Connie?
The only concern I have is, like we always have, we have parking for cars, but there's still no bike pods. Where people can secure their bikes, how they have the cover.
The
I'd
metal.
like to see something over there, maybe.
Is that something we can recommend with our design situation, or because it's not technically?
It's not technically, but parking or bike parking is part of the standards for downtown. So I don't have the code up right there for that. I was just looking at the design standards.
Sure.
But we can say, please address this, or please look at this to the planning commission,
Okay.
and then they could recommend that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so how do we go about saying for the design standards, we think
Yeah,
it fits.
I do need an official motion and I need it voted on since we're making a recommendation to the planning commission. So, but you can say, as per the design standards, accepting, we need the siding approved and we need the colors to fit within the downtown design standards. Then we approve the design.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion stating as long as the paint color is within our standard and the siding has been approved, that we approve as it stands.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 And I'll vote against,
Okay.
because I don't see how you separate the fact that it's a food cart pod. I mean, that's what it's for, how you separate the temporary structures from the permanent structure.
I guess the way that I'm looking at it is in town already, we have food carts that don't match. And so I guess I think it would look better to have all the food carts in one spot versus like spread around in all these different parking lots that we could be using for parking.
Mhm.
So my hope would be that moving food carts, or hopefully some of these food carts will move over there so that we could have a more cohesive downtown looking area than having like little carts popped up everywhere looking like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just the way I'm looking at it. It looks like somebody has their hand raised.
Hi, this is Joel. Sorry, for Council Litke. Just to kind of give you some clarification, I believe that the reason why we can't specify the difference and policies on those food carts is because, as you mentioned, they're a mobile structure, so that would fall under a different category through like DMV almost. And so we can't tell them they have to have a specific look to your cart because it's not a permanent structure. I don't think we have the authority to put that in there, if I understand that right. So now that's just my take on it, and from what I kind of understand from those laws. So that's probably why we can't specifically tell them what their food cart has to look like or what kind of standards they have to have. So I just wanted to give you some insight on that. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on, I guess, to subcommittees. I wanted to stay on this really quick. When Matt was here, because we have a little bit of a lack of participation, we struggled with the subcommittees
Yes.
because then all of us had 4 different meetings per month that we had to show up to, talking about all the same things that we're talking about here. So we decided not to do subcommittees.
Mhm.
So I don't know exactly what we were going to be talking about here, but just throwing that out there.
So this kind of ties into later when we're talking about the accreditation.
Okay.
Is that we're going to need to rebuild these committees. And these committees don't have to meet every month.
Okay.
These committees can be on a standby basis, or such as the promotion committee that meets while they're doing the event planning.
Okay.
But it's also a great way to create a volunteer pipeline for people to move into the commission when you guys are ready to retire from your seats.
Okay. Makes sense.
Well, there were a couple of concerns, and I think you articulated them. And so we decided to do the work of the committees in these meetings. And so I would think that those two things, having committees actually to meet the requirements of the Main Street program and doing the work of those committees during either part or all of this, would not be in conflict with each other. In other words, I think we could organize committees. Every other month, we could assign this meeting to be the time that the committees do the work. And then, maybe reserve the last half hour or something like that for the committees to come back and report.
I mean, that might work for some committees, but like the promotions committee that's doing the event planning, they're going to need to meet separately and way more often as we're gearing up to the event.
I think the idea of you said we're being on standby might be helpful because I think there's so long, sometimes we go between these design situations where we need to discuss it that we could pull that into this kind of meeting like you're saying, and then promotions could be meeting separately with your volunteers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Does that sound like something we can do?
Yeah, we can do it on an as needed basis.
Okay.
I know when we were planning Uncorked for the first couple months, it was a monthly thing. Then it was, I think probably about a month out, we were meeting weekly,
Mhm.
just to touch base and make sure we
Yeah.
knew where we were at.
Yeah, because there's a lot of work to be done planning the events.
So is that kind of just the gist of what that was?
Yep.
Okay. And then on to the national accreditation.
Mhm.
I know Taylor saw this, the spreadsheet
Yes.
where we went through, and there's some places in the accreditation that I have concerns and Taylor had concerns. And I don't know if anybody else had a chance to look through the accreditation information that I sent over. Is there any places that you all have concerns also? Specifically, I think there's the balanced budget, which we knew we weren't going to present a balanced budget this year, but that we should look at how we can bring in other funding sources for next year. So that should be something that's on our, operations committee or us to look at. So come back with ideas for having other ways to bring in income.
Well, okay, I'm sorry to
Yeah, no, no.
constantly be jumping in here, but a balanced budget simply means that your revenue and does it specify how we're supposed to get that revenue?
It specifies that we're supposed to have a funding structure with a mix of public and private sector sources.
Okay,
And right now, the majority,
and it doesn't specify what that mix is supposed to be.
no.
So if the funding source is 90%, the city gives money and supports your position, and 10% comes from, events or whatever, then as long as the budget balances, then that should be acceptable,
Mhm.
right? So if the city says, you know what, we're invested in this enough that we're going to contribute $10,000 every single year. We're going to put that in our budget, and that's going to go to the activities of the DEC.
Mhm.
Then, and Connie manages to raise another $1,000 and our budget is 11,000. And that would be a balanced budget.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing that I had concerns about, and that I know Taylor had mentioned, was that we are not doing a very good job on the historical aspect of the Main Street program. That we don't really do a good job telling the history of the downtown, that we don't have a whole lot of assets related to the history in our downtown. And so that's something that I would recommend that we get some additional training through the state Main Street on how to do a better job at presenting that.
Is that something they do?
Yeah, they do.
That's awesome.
Well, I know this is brand new through Main Street, and so she's developing programs, and that's something we can say to her is, here's where we have a need, and she can say, here's what we have to offer. So if that's something you guys are interested in pursuing, I can take that to the state Main Street organization and say, this is where we would like some extra help.
And who is she?
Sherry
Sherry.
Stewart.
And
She's the state Main Street
Got it.
director.
All right, thanks.
Mhm.
Looks like Counselor Lickey has his hand raised.
Hey guys, so I have an idea on there, but I know that I'm just a liaison here, so I don't want to intrude on your guys' meeting here. So if you guys would prefer I wait till the community comments, I can do that as well. So by all means, I'm at your under your authority here. So but and a concept to consider, I've seen a lot of smaller main streets is kind of like a walk around tour with the historical pieces of it.
Mhm.
So for example, it might work well with the passport thing that we just implemented for some of the businesses, is to add in the historical piece where like maybe there's a historical event or a primary piece in our city that might matter, like the statue or something like that. And we have that be a marker on there, maybe a historical sign or something next to it, but then get people to kind of walk around in our downtown in our area to maybe see some of the historical pieces in Estacada, but at the same time, it brings them in connection with the businesses as well. So like, for example, 19 years to have a brewery here in town is a big deal. So to have something with that would be a way to connect it or something. I mean, if we're going way further back, we can look at, what downtown used to be. If there was a major event or something we had in the downtown area, we can connect that or back to a building like when the Mason building was built or something. And then, that brings people to that building, but also the businesses there that can benefit as well. And you kind of get what I'm going. I've seen that in different small towns. It's kind of like a walkabout in the town, but at the same time covers history as well. So just an idea to think about for you guys.
And we do have the historical brochure that is available for people to get.
So we're trying to find something for people to do maybe. I mean, because it sounds like, there is some historical stuff. Do we
Mhm.
just want more or do we just want more?
I
mean,
think,
'cause
I
we
think
have
we
the
need to
timber
find
guy
a
and
good
the-
way to integrate the history
Mhm.
within our plans
Mhm.
so that history is part of our purpose moving forward.
Got it. That makes sense.
Mhm. Purpose.
And then the last portion that I know Taylor had concerns, and I think that we're working towards this, is a lot of collecting the statistics. So the revitalization statistics, so the businesses that move in and how many people they employ, the businesses that leave and close, the work that's being done on the buildings, how much that cost, and how much private and public money went into that, all that information. And we are collecting that, but there's some of the larger statistics that I know that's part of why we were looking at doing that market survey is. So that's still on our plans. I want to make sure we're still, have that out there, but probably not until after Harvest Fest.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
I know Matt was pretty good on doing the quarterly reports. How are you? Are you needing help with that? Or is that, where do we stand with getting our quarterly reports in?
No, we've got I just did this quarter's
Okay,
report this
okay.
morning, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
alrighty, good.
yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay, so in moving forward with the national accreditation stuff, we are just hoping to get some additional training on the historical portion of that and then continuing to work towards being better about our statistics and such.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay. And then on to empty buildings research.
I think that was really interesting. I hope you guys had a chance to read it. It was really interesting.
Yeah, I thought there were some cool options that
It
we
was-
could do.
Pardon?
I thought there were some cool options that we
Yeah.
could do for vacant buildings, just.
From what I understood, that we don't have anything currently in place, correct?
so the first option that I outlined, we do currently have in place. So the vacant building registration, that code that I included in there is in the city's code. However, we don't have a fee attached to it, which I think is where that becomes, actionable
Right.
is by charging a fee for vacant buildings.
And
Okay.
What would it take to get a fee attached? Do they have to revise the ordinance or something?
No, they wouldn't have to revise the ordinance, but it would have to go before council.
Okay, so
It'd be a council resolution, to adjust their fee schedule.
are kind of all of these things something we need to take before the council?
So the first three options, the vacant building registration, if we want to ask council to add a fee to that, that would have to go before council. The second, the maintenance requirements, that would be writing a whole new code, and that would have to go before probably the planning commission and then the council. And then the same with the third option, which is a specific code related to boarding up windows and doors, and that would also have to go before planning commission and council. Then we get to the non-code options, which are things that don't have to go before council. The first one is just a letter writing campaign, writing letters to the building owners saying, hey, this is really impacting my business is next door. Can you, clean it up or try to sell it or whatever, however it impacts your business. And then the other is working with the building owners to try to promote that empty space. So there's a few options for promoting the empty space, like a tour of empty buildings, or there's that one right there that I put a picture in there that says, I wish this was and people can come in and say, I wish this was a laundromat, or I wish this was a, coin operated. What do you
Arcade.
Arcade, yes, thank you. I don't know why my brain went oof. So that, that there's a few different options there for promoting the empty space.
Oh,
Oh,
it's not unlocked?
It's
Just pull,
it's
Chris,
unlocked.
just pull.
Yeah.
There you go. Just pull.
Just pull. No problem. So that's an option. Doesn't have to go before council, just involves us meeting and talking with the building owners and seeing if they'd be willing to work with us on some of these options.
So quick question.
Mhm.
There's a building right on Broadway
Yes.
that is wide open. You can't get in touch with the owners. You call and call and call. They don't care. It's not, beat up. It's not in bad shape. It's just vacant.
Mhm.
And so what?
For years.
Oh, years and years. And I've called 1,000 times. So,
Yeah.
but what option do we have for something like that? That isn't, it doesn't look bad. It doesn't, it doesn't have broken windows.
Mhm.
Is that just the $100 fee or whatever that we're talking about?
Yeah, so the option in that case would be potentially the vacant building registration, which could have a fee attached to it. If somebody could get through to them, and oftentimes I've seen with these vacant buildings, if they get a lot of people mailing them and calling them, they'll realize that it's on somebody's radar and they need to do something about it.
Okay.
So that's another option, but from a city standpoint, there's not a whole lot of things that we can do without adjusting the code.
Got it.
We do already have the vacant building code in the code of the city, so that would probably be the easiest code related option moving forward.
So when you're calling them, what are you interested in?
Well, initially I was interested in renting it.
And you couldn't get them to respond?
No.
Huh.
Yeah, no, I couldn't get anybody to respond. I mean, I'm still interested in renting it, but I can't get anybody to respond. And so, and then I've had other people who are interested in renting it who have been like, oh, do you know who this owner is? And I'm like, no, I can't get a hold of them. So, yeah, it still says for a lease, but you leave 1,000 voicemails and they just never call back.
When Matt was here, I chatted with him too, because when Amphrom was looking for a building and coming into some hurdles initially was where we were, I asked him like, who owns this? And he's like, don't even try.
Yeah, it's a waste.
They are sitting on it because the amount of rent that they want is unreasonable. And so they're really just doing it to sit on it to get a tax break.
Yeah.
That was Matt's message from November, September of last year to me.
Yeah.
And I tried to, I probably sent 3 or 4 voicemails. I have no email, but voicemails never respond.
No. And Matt was in pretty close contact with every vacant building. And so he kind of knew the story on each individual one. And that one he had said, like, they're not going to answer your calls. They want like $5,000 a month for the rent, but they won't even call you back if you call. So initially they were open to talking, but now they're not.
Yeah, the other hard one is you have like Andale, owned by Brad, and then the building that we're in over next to the kayak shop, that's also one of Brad's, and he's one of the more not difficult, but like harder to get a hold of people. And he was responding to mine and Noompa's and even Matt's messaging. So the only one that doesn't respond is the other building.
Let's forget about Andale.
I know, that's like way over there. Yeah. So, okay. So then how do we go about bringing that to the council?
If you as a commission would like to ask the council to add a fee to that, then you can vote on it, make a motion, vote on it, and then I will present it to the council.
Is that something I need to like recuse myself from because I'm interested in renting a vacant building? No?
I would say no, because you're not pushing for this as much as it is like across the board. All vacant buildings have a different appearance to people who are coming into Estacada compared to there's just one, and there's only one, and you want that one. And so we're pushing for, a lot, like there's more than one that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I
there's a
will, this code applies citywide. It's not just downtown
Okay.
district. So the code that's on the book is a citywide code.
Okay. Well, then would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to add that to the presentation of the city council.
All in favor?
Well, wait,
Oh.
wait. Can we have discussion after the motion? Okay, on this motion. I'm not clear what you've moved. So are you talking about adding a fee? Or are you talking about the maintenance? Or are you talking about all
Adding a
the
fee.
Adding
Adding
a
the
fee?
$100
Okay.
fee to register the vacant building.
Okay, so I'm gonna be against that. And the reason I'm gonna be against it is largely that I don't think it's any of our business. I would strongly support maintenance requirements. And I would strongly support, I think if, folks want to get together and writing campaigns, these things are informal things that are taken up by not a group like ours, in my opinion. It would be more a grassroots effort. But to me, it doesn't, I think a person should be able to buy investment property and do with that investment property whatever he or she wants to do, and without having to pay additional fees to a city. And I totally understand that you may not agree with me on this, but that is the reason that I'll vote against it, is that I would feel like it was impacting me if the building was not being kept well, or if there were all kinds of, vagrants living in front of it, or whatever, somehow or another was not being maintained. But the idea of charging somebody for having a vacant building goes beyond what I think the city has the right to do.
I will say part of the reason the code was instituted is so that the city knows who the owner is in case of emergency. So that was part of why the code is instituted, is there's a vacant building, there's nobody in it. And when the code was instituted, it was kind of around 2008 when all these foreclosures were happening. So that way the city knows who's responsible for this building. So, there's a fire, water main breaks, etc. And that's why the registration was set up in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I'm just objecting to the money part of it.
Mhm.
So
I'm kind of torn too, because I don't know how big of a deal it'll be for, $100. It's kind of, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a huge.
I think I am in favor of it personally, only because those vacant buildings do affect our businesses. Because if
Oh,
it
yeah,
was full of
totally.
somebody, full of a business, that's just
Yeah.
more traffic for the rest of downtown
Yeah.
and the rest of, the city. So I think that's why I'm mostly in favor of it. But you're right,
Yeah.
$100 is not going to.
Yeah,
typically
and I'm
impact.
all for, I want it to be
Business, yeah.
something, but and we can do other options too. We can still write letters. We can still see if somebody can get a hold of them and see if we can do pop-up stores or what. I don't know. But good start.
as part of
Yeah.
economic development, I guess I would hope that the city would try to engage with those people that own those buildings and say, what can we do to actually, help your building gain value by, having a vibrant downtown, all those kinds of things. I just am, and I actually agree with you. It would be great to have them all filled because there's more activity going on, and the more activity, the better for everybody. But in the end, I can't justify charging somebody for deciding that they don't want to rent their building.
And that's, that's totally fine. We all have different opinions.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from.
Totally.
I think the way I just feel about it is like, knowing the conversations I've had with Matt, he had literally tried everything. Like he had
Right.
tried, like, let's get you a grant so we can split that building up into 4 different spaces and have 4 storefronts. And like, they were like, we're not putting any more money into it. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. And then there's other vacant buildings that the same things, like Andale, can't get a hold of them, where Ant Farm's supposed to be, like, it's still sitting. Like, it's just a bunch of people who aren't really willing to work because they don't live around here or they don't care. And so I just don't know what else to do. I mean, we can write
Right.
letters all day and all that, and I get that.
Yeah.
I just,
We
Yeah,
got,
it's not new. It's not within the year. It's, yeah.
yeah.
I have a thought, but it looks like Mr. Lidkey has his hand up, so give him space too.
Thank you. Just something to consider. I understand what Ben is talking about, but I'm sorry, it's Commissioner Johnson, I think, so we refer to you guys as. But something to think about, if you're going to apply a fee to them, but you can't even get a hold of them in the first place, how are you going to
Mm.
collect that fee? Something to consider there. That's all.
Very valid point. One of the things that I was going to add to that too is I come from kind of like within, so bear with me, within like a science realm, we'll do what we call like extreme tests. So if we take the most extreme situation, what would we want to see? So if every single owner along Broadway had a vacant building and it was their choice to leave it vacant, what would the city want from that? Would the city be like, it's your property, you can sit on it, but the downtown area is vacant? On the other side, is there any promotion for not having it be vacant, right? Like if we're penalizing it for being vacant, is there support and other things on the other side of that extreme? And for me, when I'm thinking about the other extreme, we're not giving money because you're in there and doing things. But on the other end, if every building's there, in some ways that is the promotion. Like you're getting more business potentially because of the traffic, especially in certain seasons of the year. People don't tend to stay in a town when they're driving through if there's a lot of vacancies. We don't have a lot, but that's a huge space compared to other business fronts. And I don't know, like, again, maybe we don't compare it because of how much space compared to other buildings it is, but it appears there's a lot more vacant than just one building because of how much it takes up
Large it is,
along
yeah.
Broadway. And that's an image that we as a city are projecting out to the rest of the public who come through. Depending on what they want, they may not even be noticing that because they're going straight towards a restaurant or they're going straight towards a specialty shop that they came out here for, or that on the way out here, they realize is here. And so they're stopping in. But for those who are like just kind of cruising through to see what's around, it might have more of an impact on their image of here and coming back out here. So
Looks like Counselor Lick, he has his hand raised again.
I don't know if he took it down.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, I didn't take it down. I apologize.
fine. So I guess then how do we want to move forward with that?
You have a motion on the table. and
So it's just a vote now.
You just vote, yeah.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Were there any other of these options that you wanted to look at working forward?
I agree with Bennett about the maintenance portion of it. Is definitely something that, I mean, we have a giant building right here that really needs some maintenance. And we have nothing in place to help us with that. So I would love to have that be something we can bring to the city council.
It does say that the requirements apply to all commercial spaces, not just vacant ones. So there's people.
Well, that's what I mean.
occupied.
Yeah, that big motel, hotel thing. needs some love.
Yeah.
And that would be an opportunity to get at least something moving in that direction, if it's something we could even get the council to want to look into.
Yeah, so that would need to go before the planning commission.
That's right.
first. Mhm.
Okay, so how do we go about something like that if that's something everybody wants to do?
So at that point, we could make a recommendation to the planning commission
Okay,
to look at adding something to the code similar to the maintenance requirements.
okay.
What Matt had said about that when because we've had a number of discussions about it, just little tiny baby discussions. And what he said is that he's had multiple discussions with the owner of that building and nothing's ever come of it because, as Connie has pointed out, they get right to the edge. They actually have met all the code requirements. They've met all the fire requirements. It continues to be an eyesore because the requirements are within that range. So what he said was, maybe what you do is you put together a letter or some kind of recommendation and you say, hey, planning commission and city council, please move this up in your list of priorities. This needs to be dealt with. So it's either that, the building is purchased by the city or something happens, but just encourage the city council and the planning commission to move it up in priority. And not try to actually deal with it in code so much as just say, let's do something here. It's been lingering forever.
And is that problem lingering because the owners of that space are not wanting to put the money in to go beyond the limit? Or is it more along the lines of it's like kind of what we're talking about with the other is like kind of a separated owner from the space?
I think I'm guessing here.
Okay,
I'm guessing that he's making plenty of money on it without doing anything.
got it.
It's Section 8 housing, so basically it's government secured
Mhm.
housing, so.
I don't want to open up a can of worms, but he does call himself a motel. And has he been paying motel taxes over the years? Probably not.
It's a good question.
But on all of his business, he's saying McRae's Motel. Sorry, so is he paying lodging taxes?
Yeah, I wonder.
Great question.
Is that our realm or does that still go back? I mean, like that still feels like
That
it's
would
planning and
be,
city.
the city doesn't collect the lodging tax. That's a county, right? I'm pretty
Right.
sure it's a county.
Right, it is the county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would not be under our realm.
Period.
Joel,
We actually have a tax for that in the city, but we just haven't collected it in years. This came up in council last council meeting. So you guys can reference back to that and see some of the things we talked about. But it actually came up and we haven't collected it, I think, in the last 2-3 years. But we do have an intercity lodging tax. I think it's like 1 or 3% or something like that. You'll have to roll back to see that one, but there is one there. We can collect one if we so choose. And we just haven't collected anything for the last couple of years.
Is that from just that entity or from all lodging entities?
I think it's all lodging. I don't think we've collected any of it. I think
Okay.
we've just kind of elected not to. That's something more you could probably pose to, I don't think Sadie's in the meeting here, is she?
No, she's not.
Okay, yeah, Sadie or Melanie, they're the ones who brought it up, so they'll probably know more about it. But I do know we have one and that we've elected not to collect it. So I don't know if we just put a forbearance on it or something or what. I have no idea. So
it's interesting. Maybe. Okay, well. So is that something we just don't deal with right now? What do we do here?
Well, you've already made a motion to recommend the council add a fee
Right.
to their vacant building registration.
Okay.
And that passed.
And that passed. Yes, correct. So you don't have to do anything else unless you want to do anything else. You can put this further discussion off to another meeting. You can send it to let's say we have the subcommittee, the
motion.
design committee, there's a lot of options there.
I'll make a motion. I move that we recommend to the planning commission that code be added to require a particular level of maintenance.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Can I ask clarifying?
Yeah.
With the code of, say that what you're phrasing again one more time, a level of code of maintenance,
A particular level of maintenance. So it'd be up to them to decide what that is.
and that would be not just towards the entity of our example, but towards all.
That would be
City
on
wide.
vacant buildings. That's what we're discussing now.
I guess that is what we're discussing now, is vacant buildings.
I don't know that you could apply that code just to vacant buildings, the maintenance code.
That's for everything.
It would,
It would be citywide, right?
Vacant and non.
yeah,
Well-
I think you could do it according to, but we can refer it to planning commission, Taylor
Right,
as the
I'm sure
planner.
that they can
can-
do it just on vacant buildings. So
can
they could
look at
do
the
it across the board
legalities.
if they wanted to. They could do it on vacant building. I'm sure that they could work all that out. But this motion that I just made has to do with vacant buildings.
Okay.
Okay, I second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 I,
Okay.
All right, moving on to event planning. Any updates for us, Connie?
Okay, moving along with the 4th of July parade. I think we got it narrowed down to a couple of themes. Once upon a time and remember when. Anybody have any thoughts or preference or anything else?
I love the remember when. I think that sounds fun.
yeah.
Trying to keep it pretty short and sweet. Hannah, I know you gave me several ideas. And I always try and keep away from anything political, patriotic. I mean, I'm patriotic. I mean, there's no doubt about that, but I try and stay away from anything that's political, patriotic, keep it very nondescript, I guess is a word. So once upon a time, remember when, I remember when, so
I like
we
the,
need to decide pretty soon.
I like the simplicity of remember when, and it all, like, the first one, like once upon a time, I think of like kind of like fairy tale.
Yeah.
And like it kind of draws me away from some of the what the focus will be. Maybe it makes me have a different expectation, but remember when, it's super short, it's, you can remember, well, you can remember that, not to be cliche. But
Well, this is 4th of July, right?
Pardon?
This is 4th of July, right?
For the theme for
Parade?
the 4th of
It's,
July.
it's a
parade.
theme for the parade. So, they'll use it to design their parade floats.
Yeah, I think remember when for sure.
I think that's fun. Yeah, I like that one.
Okay. And then the other thing, I've been trying to figure out how we could do this. We always have grand marshals. And I thought this year it'd be nice to have volunteers for grand marshals. And we would have one volunteer, like from the fire department, from the food bank, from DEC, from Ant Farm, all these various groups that have volunteers. But I don't know how to do that, if we would have a flatbed truck at the beginning or have everybody that's representing their group hold up a sign, I don't know. But if you have any ideas for grand marshals, let me know.
I like that. That's nice.
I'm a little naive. What is the role of the grand marshal in a parade? I don't even,
Symbolic.
just symbolic,
Yeah,
like a focal point of representation of the community? Is that?
Yeah, last year we had the
okay, an
Estacada
honored
School
person.
District, because they were so critical during the COVID with doing meals and stuff. They didn't get the people that I was hoping they would, but we've had, like when the Philip Foster Farm had their 70th anniversary, we had them. We don't even need to have grand marshals. So,
Just tradition. or
Yeah,
something.
it's tradition though, right?
Yeah.
That you do. I think we should stick with it. I think, I like your idea though, of having kind of a representative from each group. I think that's fun.
because we could have, the banner can say, thank you volunteers, and then either list the groups that are represented or have them carry a sign saying what group. I'm still trying to figure that out in my head. So I'd like to have them on a, like a flatbed, you know.
I think
So,
that'd be cool.
okay. Other than that, everything's moving along. Got my stagers lined up, my judges lined up. Yeah,
Do you need help from with us
Not
from
yet.
anything? Okay.
not yet.
Do we know how many people have signed up or for that?
Well, we don't open up the registration till usually about a month ahead. We usually have anywhere between 100 and 150 cars, 11 floats. Animals can be anywhere from horses to cows to llamas. You know, and again, there's usually a good 100 of those. And then the big rigs. So we open up
Mhm.
registration about a month ahead of time.
Oh, well.
And that's why we need to get a theme, because people will start thinking
Right.
about decorating and stuff like that.
Decorations. Fun.
Okay, so I guess moving on to public comment number 2.
We just have the one attendee online, and if she would like to comment, she can raise her hand.
And then no public comment then, and then commissioner comments. Yeah,
I just want to thank Elena. She's come up with a couple of really good suggestions for volunteer registration form that's been on our website and through the city. We've already got about 5 people that have volunteered. I remember one of them, I think. So I think that's going to be great. I appreciate your help on that. Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
I just want to apologize for my tardiness. My Mondays are really hard to get here on time. Today, a parent didn't show up on time, so I have to stick with that student until. So just keep being patient with me. Appreciate that. I'm sorry I was really excited to talk about the food cart, and I'm here to find out what you guys decided and hear about that after maybe.
Yeah.
So that we don't recap it during our meeting, but so sorry if I missed that part too.
I just want to thank everybody who showed up.
Yeah,
Appreciate you all.
better to be inside than outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get out of the house.
Thank you.
Sorry, I probably should have put this during the public comments section, but one of the goals for the council has been to, especially this year, is to increase city and nonprofit interaction and collaboration. So I was really happy to hear the idea for the Grand Marshals to try to get them involved and the volunteers. I think that's really good. So thumbs up and on that one. It also something to kind of put out there to think for you guys as you guys are going through and planning events. There's different nonprofits in the city that do events or have volunteers that want to get involved, from churches to public, like you have veterans organizations, things like that. You have the Estacada Community Watch and all these different groups that do different events throughout the year that the city could probably partake in and join up with, or you guys can partner with, that would either help extend the capability of the city's event by splitting cost or advertising or whatever that might be to help extend those events. But also at the same time, it could just be the other way around, where they're posting an event and the city's just coming behind them to try to bolster that event for that organization or that group, especially on the veterans thing. It's been a thing recently that's been pushed, and so I think that's a good thing to consider that as well. So just a note there to kind of keep in mind as you're kind of thinking of events and ways that we can interact. But that's a goal of the council. Just FYI there.
Thank you.
But thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. It is 5:56 and the meeting is adjourned.